Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Burkeen.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Burkeen. Today's show, I want to welcome one of our high school coaches in Louisiana that really doesn't get enough exposure. Today, I want to give him a ton of exposure, the head football coach of Plain Dealing High School, Coach Christopher Wilson. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Thanks for having me, man.
I want to promote your school today. You're going to co-host the show with me, and I want to tell everybody that Plain Dealing, if you're not from North Louisiana, and Coach knows this because Coach is from Shreveport, but if you've never been there, I want to explain it, and Coach will explain it too, but it's in the Bossier School District. It is its own town. Plain Dealing's its own town, and it's not far from Spring Hill, which is, now North Webster, and it's not far from Bossier City. They play in that Bossier City district. But they play teams like Haynesville. This year they played Calvary Baptist. They played Lincoln Prep from Grambling, Louisiana, all types of teams. And we're going to talk about Coach's team today. We're going to talk about Coach's background. He played at Byrd High School. He's a former Byrd Yellow Jacket football player. And we're going to talk about college football today, LSU, Tulane, Louisiana Tech, and ULM. We're going to talk about opt-outs. We're going to talk about the NFL, get Coach's opinion on who's going to go to the Super Bowl. Coach, think of your two Super Bowl teams.
Oh, my two Super Bowl teams never change.
Yeah, we'll get there. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Bowl games, 9 bowl games not going to be played this year. 9. People aren't following that. They say, you don't have to have a certain record this year to go to a bowl game, but there's not going to be 9 bowl games, so that knocks out 18 teams. If they continue to not have bowl games, then it's going to go down to a lot of teams aren't going to be able to play in a bowl game. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Coach Christopher Wilson, who's the head coach at Plain Dealing. Went to Byrd High School, played at Byrd. And, Coach, one year you were doing stats, you told me, for Charlie Cavell, the voice of the Byrd High School football team. What was that like when you finished at Byrd, learning how to do stats on the field before you even got into coaching?
Well, I was a junior in high school that year. I got hurt during baseball season in the fall or in the spring, and when I wasn't cleared by the doctors coming into the fall, I told Coach Suggs, "Look, man, I'm not ready to go home every day. I want to be a part of the program. Whatever you need me to do." So on Fridays, I would come and pick up the lineups and everything. I would take them up to Charlie, and I would work in the booth with Charlie. And he was the one who taught me how to do stats by hand, keep up with the game, and provide him with the pertinent information that he needed to know during the broadcast. And it carried over into my coaching career because my first year I was in the box. And my Coach Dennis, that's retired now, that was at Green Oaks, he wanted me to do stats by hand. And so it really gave me that first crash course of, what I needed to do once I was in that box.
And, Coach, you told me, we're going to talk about your team later in the show. We're going to get into college football, Louisiana, in a minute. But you're recovering from COVID-19 right now at home. Your team was scheduled for the playoffs. And, unfortunately, you told me y'all played all 8 games this year. And then at the end, y'all weren't able to play in the playoffs. You're about to be out of your protocol, but you're at home right now recovering for COVID-19 right now.
Correct.
I know that you've got to be disappointed not to be able to coach your team in the playoffs after playing all 8 games. I know that had to be disappointing to you. Go ahead, Coach. Definitely heartbreaking, especially because we didn't provide our seniors a proper send-off.
They worked really hard to win the Magnolia game. It was a really tight, contested game, and we were looking forward. They had done their job. They had done what they needed to do in order for them to make the playoffs and be in a position where we would have a game where we could compete, and for them to really have it stripped for them, do no consequence to them. They didn't do anything wrong. It hurts for my kids.
Coach, how are you doing right now? You said you're doing better. You said you're close to being over COVID.
Yeah, I'm fine, man. I'm on my fourth day now with no symptoms. The only thing I really had was I lost scent for about 3 or 4 days, and once my scent came back and the headache and the body aches went away, man, I've been good to go.
That's good, man. I'm glad you're doing good, and prayers for all those out there that are fighting COVID. It is real. You know, people have died from COVID. And other people have recovered, and I'm glad that you're doing well, Coach. Coach, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, me and Coach Wilson are going to talk about college football teams in Louisiana. We're going to start with LSU when we come back. We'll be right back. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Burkeen. Today's guest, helping me as a co-pilot today, is the head football coach at Plain Dealing High School, close to Bossier City, Louisiana, head coach Christopher Wilson. So, Coach, some people call you Chris Wilson, or would you rather be called Christopher?
As I've gotten older, it's turned over to Christopher.
Okay.
My mom likes it better when it's in print.
Hey, moms know best, man. You know that.
Definitely.
We're going to get into college football, Coach. And LSU's had a tough season. You know, they had a tough loss. They looked good on defense against Texas A&M. Nobody thought they would beat them. But I really think they could have beat A&M if they'd have had any kind of running game. And to start off, I want to talk about your school because Plain Dealing's home to one of the safeties that starts for Texas A&M. Tell everybody about the kid from Texas A&M that's from Plain Dealing.
Keldrick Carper is probably one of the most prolific athletes to come through Plain Dealing in a long time. I had the pleasure or the I don't know if you would call it the pleasure. I coached against Keldrick at Green Oak during his junior year, man. And with him and Logan Allen, rest his soul, they ran us out the building. And so Keldrick's always been a great kid. And from the conversations that I've had with the coaches that were there when he was there and the things he was doing at Texas A&M, man, is what I use him as a model of what we want Plain Dealing athletes to look like, because if he could do it in that community, then any of the kids that are in the community can do it. So, you know, it's always, Texas A&M is much TV in my household because I love to watch that kid play because he represents the good things that are going on in our town.
And, you know, Plain Dealing High School, this is where Keldrick Carper played. And Coach, he's 6'2" now. He's over 200 pounds. He's one of the top safeties in the SEC. He's got a year left of eligibility. Do you think LSU, I mean, here's a kid that probably wouldn't have went to LSU if they would have recruited him hard in the beginning, but don't you think LSU needs to get back to their home base of Louisiana and recruit kids like this?
I think that along with LSU and along with a lot of the other state schools, that they should do a better job of getting those kids that are not the top flight kids. Kids want to play for LSU. And a lot of the kids slip through the cracks and their dreams get tarnished because LSU doesn't show them any interest. But LSU is recruiting the Texases and the Floridas and up in Ohio. They're going and they're competing with all these other schools for these kids, but they're high quality kids, especially in Northwest Louisiana. And I just feel that Northwest Louisiana as a whole doesn't get their due diligence when it comes to recruiting, and we're often overlooked unless it's a superstar kid.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of them in Shreveport go to Texas A&M. You know, Donovan Wilson from Woodlawn in Shreveport, who's playing in the NFL right now. LSU didn't offer him. He was all SEC twice as a safety. This is the second safety from the Shreveport area that's going to play in the NFL that LSU didn't recruit.
Right.
Coach, LSU could not run the ball against A&M. A&M's got a heck of a D-line, and Ty Davis-Price had 11 carries for 18 yards. And you know, as a high school coach, if you run the ball 11 times for 18 yards, it's not a good day.
Right.
And if you can't run the ball, they only lost 20-7. The defense actually played, and they're starting to come around, the young guys. And Terrace Marshall has his last game. We'll talk about opt-outs later in the show. He opts out for the rest of the season. They've got freshman quarterbacks. I don't know who they're going to start the next game. Both kids are true freshmen. Coach, you had quarterbacks you had to start this year that you didn't plan on because you had a quarterback that didn't even play this year. And you've had to play 2 or 3 guys at quarterback from the high school level. So it's hard when you lose the starter going in the fall at any level, right, for quarterback.
Well, definitely, because you spend the summer installing your offense and, getting a relationship with that kid that you're gonna hang your hat on and be an extension of me personally, because I was the offensive coordinator as well, and the play caller, and you establish a relationship and you get that vibe with that kid, and when he goes down, we don't have the time to dedicate to have that second kid rip roaring and ready to go and step in and not have a drop off, and especially in my case, because the kid that ended up being my quarterback going through the season, when Braden Sterling got hurt, he wasn't even in town. He moved into playing Dillon right before school started, and it's almost like you have 10 reps in a practice. The first team guy's going to get 8, and the second team guy's going to get 2. Third team guy's just on the clipboard, and then all of a sudden now you're asking this kid to play. It's going to be a drop off, and it doesn't matter what level you're on.
It's amazing. Texas A&M wins this game 20-7, and Coach Kellen Mond, the quarterback at A&M, went 11 of 34, 105 yards. Would have guessed they would have won with him having no stats?
Not with Kellen Mond being a 3 or 4 year starter. It's odd that he's been in that program that long and he hasn't seen that growth that you would expect it from him. But anytime you're putting the ball in the air that many times and, you're only completing 11 balls, you're just lacking productivity. But again, if you're 11 carries for 18 yards, you're making it easy on yourself.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for A&M, Coach, to win a playoff game if they don't get more production out of the offense, because A&M can't carry them forever, the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to ULL, Coach, ULL had a beat down at ULM of Monroe. 70-20. Man. I mean, ULM's had one of their toughest seasons in the history of the school, Coach. I really feel for Coach Matt Viator and those guys. I mean, I think they've had the toughest besides LSU with COVID. The Southland's coming back. The SWAC's coming back. They're all going to play in the spring. But maybe ULM should have sat out and just played in the spring. It's just been 70-20, and I don't think ULL was trying to score 70. It's crazy, huh?
It's unfortunate, man. ULM has had a lot of transition this year. Offensive coordinator leaves, defensive coordinator leaves, and in the midst of COVID, and they just haven't been able to get their feet up under them this year. And a lot of their losses have been, lopsided. You feel for your one of your area institutions, but almost like you said, taking a break and going back and kind of taking that extra time to evaluate where you stand as a program and moving forward. But if the rest of the conference wanted to go forward, you kind of got to go with your conference.
Yeah, ULM's 0-9 and 0-6, and they had their game at Louisiana Tech, which didn't play because of COVID, but they could be 0-10 right now, and it's almost over for those guys. And here's the deal. Who would have thought ULL, the Raging Cajuns, would be ranked number 23 in the country and LSU not ranked? Would you have thought that after last year, Coach?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And even with all of the players that LSU lost due to the draft and due to COVID and opt-out, you would still never expect LSU to have a drop-off like that. Because, again, they're a flagship institution, and they can close their eyes and put their finger down on a kid anywhere in the state, and that kid's going to choose LSU. So it's interesting, how much that drop-off is from a 13 and 14 year in a national championship year to,
tough season. Yeah, tough season.
Yeah.
And now, UL in that win, I love these two Louisiana native backs, Coach Trey Regis from Archbishop Shaw and Elijah Mitchell from ERAF. They both had close to 100 yards each. I think they got a better running game than LSU. These two backs are guys that weren't heavily recruited. And another DB that wasn't heavily recruited for UL out of Acadiana, Braylon Trahan, had a 53-yard interception return for a score. And they are quietly probably going to get one of the bowl games. We'll talk about bowl games disappearing every day. So there might not be many bowl games, Coach, once the dust settles. We've got to talk about one more team that did not play. Louisiana Tech had their game canceled because the Florida International had some COVID-19 stuff going on, so they weren't able to play Louisiana Tech, and they have one game that they might can get back and finish with. Their bowl chances are maybe up in the air if these bowl games keep canceling out. Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about these opt-outs and get your opinion on college football. What do you think of kids opting out for the season, during the season, before the season, or right before the season's over? The heat that puts on these coaches who are trying to win out to keep their jobs. So it's kind of twofold. What's good for the kids, what's good for the coach. And then bowl games, we're going to talk about that later in the show. We're going to talk about the NFL. Coach, give me your two winners when we get to that topic. I've got my two, and we'll have fun with that. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Burkeen. Our guest today, I'm honored, is the head football coach at Plain Dealing High School, Christopher Wilson. Like Coach said, call me Christopher. That's what Mom would like. So our moms know best on everything. Some people call me Lee, Coach, and some people call me Clyde. My real name's Clyde, but I go by my middle name.
Okay.
And then if you're in South Louisiana, they call me Cooney. That's my nickname. For French, it's French. And so that's my nickname. If you know me from growing up, you'll call me Cooney, and I'll be like, well, I must know that person. I must have grew up with that person. They call me Lee. It's probably been in the last 20 years. Or if it's roll call in school, it's Clyde. So,
one of my kids found out my nickname from college, and I told him, I threatened him every time he fixes his lips. And so
can we say it or not say it?
I'm not gonna give it to him, because
Okay.
then the small town like that, everybody in the town will be calling me by my nickname.
Yeah, at birth, I was called Cooney at birth, and by my mom and dad, and so I didn't really have a choice, like you said, but I go by Lee Burkeen. And Coach, opt-outs. What do you think of opt-outs? And this is a pretty – there's a lot of factors that go on opt-outs with kids, and you know this because you're a coach. And I know a lot of kids that have played ball and currently playing for LSU. I know kids playing for Tulane, UL, Southern, Grambling. Some kids financially, they go pro because if you sign with an agent, you can't play anymore. And what they're doing is they don't want to screw up their eligibility with the school. But when you sign with an agent, you get ready for the NFL, you're trying to get drafted. Some kids are opting out, and they're not a surefire draft pick. Those are the ones I'm questioning doing it, because then why are you opting out if you're not even going to get maybe drafted? You need to showcase more. And then kids are opting out, and coaches are trying to finish the season, and then they don't have their star players to try and win games. It's crazy right now. What do you think of opt-outs?
Well, I guess I straddle the fence with opt-outs, and I think I lean more so to the kid with the opt-out. And the reason why I say that is a lot of these kids are, like I said, they're making financial decisions for not just them but the next generation of their family. And I'll never stand in the way of a kid making the best decision for them, especially in the way of the world in football at this point, where coaches, they preach loyalty, and they want kids to commit for 4 to 5 years, and then as soon as a better job comes along, they're gone like a thief in the night, and nobody's concerned about those kids when their coach leaves. So my thing with the opt-outs, and then like you said about those kids that are fringe guys or undrafted guys that are opted out, they're still hanging on to bad influences from their home.
Yeah.
They're still hanging on to bad influences from their hometown, and they're being hyped up, and they're being led to believe that in their mind that they're better than what they are putting out on paper. And, when they make those decisions, and they're giving up their eligibility, and they're giving up those those kids are usually 2 years from being really on the map. They're sacrificing their livelihoods, and those are decisions that they'll probably be eating for the next 20, 30, 40 years of their lives, because, patience in this kid's generation is really, really hard to teach. And they're always looking for the instant gratification, and it just doesn't work like that. When you start increasing that level of competition, like on the D1 level.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a good point you made about coaches. If coaches get angry at the kids, then they need to commit on paper for the 5 years and not leave. Like you said, don't go anywhere. So if you're going to sign a contract, which they always can buy out to another school, then, we're about to see that, Coach. We're about to see a lot of coaches try and move up for more money, right? More money.
Definitely.
And they're going to leave behind guys they just signed a year ago and say, bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming. I told you to come to the campus to play for me, but I'm leaving. Or
the kids that are going to early sign day in a month, in a couple weeks.
And then the coach is going to leave.
Yeah.
This has been going on for years. Like you said, there's that side of it that people don't talk about. But what I don't like, and I'm glad you said it, is being influenced by the wrong people if you're not a surefire first, second round pick.
Right.
Because if you're not going in the first, second round, and you're a third round guy, you might slip to a fifth round guy. Now all of a sudden you might get cut.
Yeah.
And you can't even go back to college. And if you do, you're not under a scholarship anymore. So there's a few kids that went pro this year in the country that are not a first, second round pick. And it hurts me to just see these guys not play this season because they're not definite draft picks. And like you said, the wrong people gave them advice that's going to cost them money and their future's at stake. It's really crazy. And the only other thing is, what do you think of this, Coach? What do you think of kids opting out with only 2 or 3 games left? Do you think this is because of COVID? Maybe if there wasn't COVID, it'd probably be different.
Yeah. I think because what happens if the team you're on comes down with a severe case of COVID and you give up those 3 games. And it's just, COVID has provided opt-out for everybody at every level.
Yeah. You've experienced it. You've experienced it firsthand.
Oh man. It's giving people the reason, and, you really can't argue it because who's to say who has it and who doesn't have it. But like talking about Marshall, I think what everybody was kind of hung up was he gave this rah-rah speech on, finishing the season and being locked in and being in. And he had a really, really good night on Saturday, and nobody else did. And he was like, man, my shoulders aren't strong enough to carry this for 3 more weeks. And, risk the injury. And I'm probably, and knowing that kid and knowing his family, that risk of injury with that elevated workload is not worth taking at this point. So I could definitely understand the hometown kid making that decision for himself.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall from Parkway. I met his mom and dad. We had him on our show when he was in high school. Great family. Great kid. And, I really do think if we didn't have this COVID and shut down and playing, not playing, I think none of these guys would opt out during the season. I do think that would be different. Coach, bowl games. Man, bowl games are being eliminated. The 9th bowl game is being put off as of today, the Sun Bowl, which has been playing since 1935. You've seen the Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time since 1935, they've announced today they're not going to have a bowl game. They are now the 9th bowl game that said they're not going to have a bowl game this year, which is affecting 18 teams now. So you're going to have 18 teams that won't get a bowl game, which could affect Tech, could affect Tulane, and even LSU. And let me tell you who it really affects. The ACC and the Pac-12 now have lost 4 bowl tie-ins with their conferences. That means half of the teams in the ACC and the Pac-12 will not be invited to bowl games now. It's getting crazier, isn't it, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, with these COVID restrictions, and especially out there in California, I'm a 49er fan to the death, and the 49ers can't even play their home games in their own stadium. And so I could, again, with these COVID restrictions and, teams flying in and bringing all of their resources in, it's a health risk. And, being a Shreveport guy and how we celebrate, and I've attended every Independence Bowl for the past 20 years, I'm nervous right now, man. I got to admit, that, with the Independence Bowl being a smaller bowl and, not one of those big money bowls, us losing that bowl game, man, and it's really important with a new sponsor and everything coming in, trying to get that bowl back on its feet because it has been shaky for the past few years.
Yeah, Coach, and I'm glad you brought that up. I hope they do play the Independence Bowl. I hope they pull it off because, look, even if there's no fans, Harley, at least the advertiser, the sponsor, like you said, can get the TV. That's what they get out of it anyway, the TV, being on TV.
Right.
And so I hope these bowl games don't shut them down from here on out because of fans. I mean, let's just have the bowl games, no fans, and the sponsors will be happy just being on TV. But, Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your team. I watched your team play Calvary Baptist, and I'm really impressed with your guys. You didn't play with everybody this year. You had injuries. You had guys that couldn't play this year, and y'all had a good season. We'll talk about your team at the last part of the show. The last segment, we're going to talk about the NFL, and I want to get Coach Christopher Wilson's pick for his 2 Super Bowl teams. I'm not going to bet with my heart. I'm going to go with who I think the 2 are. And people might think I'm betting with my heart. Now, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Coach. I grew up a Steelers fan. And I love the 49ers because of Steve Young and Montana. But they're not one of my picks, and obviously you know that too. But we'll get your picks. I'll get mine, and we'll also talk about Coach Christopher Wilson's plain dealing high school football team and around the Bossier City area. We'll be right back. So, hey, guys, just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships right here worth checking out. John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, and Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm Lee Burkeen, your host. This segment, we're going to still talk to Coach Christopher Wilson, the head football coach from Plain Dealing High School. Coach, here's some trivia for you. I don't know if you know this, but when I think of Plain Dealing, I think of Anthony Wilson that played basketball at LSU. Did you know who Anthony Wilson was?
Matter of fact, after I took the job, I'm laying around because, I got the job in early June 1, and I'm laying around, and an old LSU basketball game popped up, and Anthony Wilson was in the starting lineup, and I froze it, and I took a picture of it. And I was like, man, the kid, Anthony Wilson, my last name, man, play basketball for LSU, man, from Plain Dealing. So I caught you.
There you go. He was one of the greats at LSU, and he's one of the best to ever come out of Plain Dealing to go to LSU. They've had other basketball players and some good football players. We talked about Carper, who's at Texas A&M, currently free safety. They've had other players. You've got some players. I want to talk about your team, Coach. Y'all had a tough schedule. Calvary Baptist, Haynesville, Lincoln Prep. Y'all had some good teams y'all played. I watched your game, Calvary Baptist. You played them at Calvary Baptist, who's I think's got a chance to win a state title. What do you think of Calvary Baptist? And we'll start talking about your players, but what do you think about them maybe winning a championship? You saw them play firsthand with your team.
Man, I'm really honored to be in this 1-1A district. Homer, you asked about Calvary, but man, Homer was super, super explosive, super well coached. Coach Casey's done an amazing job. Calvary with Coach Ewan and all those guys over there. Joseph Wilson is a cousin of mine, and what they're doing over there at Calvary, man, it really makes me honored to be in the midst of such great coaches and really, really great teams, because I compare what I want to build in Plain Dealing to what Haynesville and what Homer is able to do every single year with the kids that they're just inheriting. Those kids that want to grow up and be Homer Pelicans, and I want kids to grow up and be Plain Dealing Lions, and that's important that they have that continuity and they're able to continuously not rebuild, man, but they're reloading every year.
Yeah, and Homer, that little kid, Xavier Webb's one of the best athletes in the Shreveport area, right, Coach? Xavier Webb for Homer?
By far.
He can play,
by far. Lightning in the bottle.
5'6", 160. Sideways 4'3", and then they've got that Torenzo kid, the safety receiver, that's 6'1", 180, and like I said, they've got size. Every year they got size and speed.
And they're physical, and like I said, they're what I'm trying to build. And when I took this job, I looked at those schools, the Haynesville and the Homer, because they're built just like us. And that's what that's what the goal of building this program into being. We want to be able to compete with those schools.
You know, in 2018, Coach, I did my homework. You'd love this. They had a census of the population of plain dealing. In 2018, it was 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
In the outlying area, it was 1,500. Is it about the same? That's not a lot of people to draw kids. It's not a lot of.
It's not, and it's dwindling by the day. And that's the issue that we've been dealing with. And those were the red flags that people perceived that I would run from when the job was presented to me. But we had enough. You know, last year they played the playoff game with 16.
Man.
That last week with Magnolia, we dressed 23, and I had 5 kids that were injured that were on the sideline. You know, so we still had 28 kids in the program, and we still had a few kids that didn't even travel with us that week. So losing 7 seniors and having a few 6th graders and 7th graders coming up, and we'll be dressing next year. You know, I'm optimistic. We got some good kids coming back, and we have some youngsters that are ready to be a part of the program full-fledged and not just be, you know, carry the water and do what they need to do to be a plain dealing line. And I feel like we've laid a good foundation this year, you know, even though we weren't able to participate in the playoffs, and that was our ultimate goal.
Yeah, Coach, God bless you, man. Y'all have had a tough time. You getting over COVID. Your team played all 8 games, and then y'all had y'all's playoff game forfeited because y'all couldn't play. But there's a lot to look forward to, man. Y'all made the playoffs. Y'all did make it, and I want to talk about some of your seniors. Darren Perry, who's been like a Swiss Army knife for you. He's played everywhere for you. We talked about Darren. He's got choices of basketball, football. He's got to get qualified overall, but he could go to a junior college and play either sport, right, Coach? He's 6'2", 170, big-time athlete.
Definitely, man. Darian, when I took the job, everyone in plain dealing and everyone that was affiliated to do anything about that program said that Darian was the kid that was going to really be the end-all, be-all for us. And he turned into that. Now, he played receiver. He had 417 yards receiving. He had 200 yards rushing. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown. He threw 2 touchdowns. The only thing I regret is in the Magnolia game, I had him on the 3-yard line, and he had carried us down, and I gave it to the big lineman, and he fumbled. I wanted to get him that rushing touchdown so he could have scored in every facet of the game. But Darian is he grew into a leader, and that's what I'm most proud about with him. That he grew into a leader, and he grew into a vocal leader, and he understood how important it was to live being in, you know, and I preach being in every single day with our kids, because I just don't want kids out there just for the sake of being there. You know, I don't want breathing bodies. I want kids that are finding their place in the program and being that placeholder to the best of their abilities and growing into something bigger and better if that's what they desire.
Yeah, well put, Coach. And what I like about Darian is that he could be a super player, like you said, as a receiver, free safety. If he doesn't go basketball, I'm going to lean football. We're both football people. But, you know, if he goes to a junior college, he could be an All-American junior college receiver or free safety, Coach. He could be like the Carper kid and gain more weight. He's got that ability.
Without a doubt. And he ended up playing a little linebacker for us the last 3 weeks just out of need. And he wasn't afraid to get in there and stick his head in there and make plays and throw his weight around. And like I said, that's the most impressive part about that kid, because if you would have asked him in August to play linebacker, he would have hung his helmet up and ran out of there. You know, but as he saw how important he was and how important his buy-in was to the sake of our program as a whole, he got some of those other kids that were fringe kids to buy in and start doing some things that they may not have been comfortable with doing.
And I'm going to mention 2 more seniors that are sleepers. Keonjay Perry, who's a transfer from North Webster, did a good job for you this year. Ended up playing quarterback for you in the end, 6'1", about 170. He's got a lot of ability, Coach. A raw kid that could be he could be a 1AA guy somewhere possibly.
Oh yeah. Keonjay came in, and Keonjay will probably project better at a outside safety, outside linebacker type. Because that's what he played on defense. You know, every kid in plain dealing plays 2 positions, sometimes 4. It just depends. Right. So Keonjay came in, and he really, really wanted that quarterback, and that's what he wanted to do. But it wasn't available to him when he walked in the door. And he took that outside linebacker and he took it and made it his own. And he was the serious one. If Darian was the more playful one, Keonji was the serious type. And he knew he had a lot to prove coming from Northwestern. He was slated to be the starting quarterback for Coach Ware in Northwestern, and he ruined his opportunity to run the night. And he was blessed with the opportunity to run the lines, and he didn't want to give that opportunity away. And so whatever I asked him to do, whatever he needed to do in order for that team to be successful, he was willing to do. And I'm really, really thankful for that kid because he was able to come in when we were blown away by injuries and step in and do a really, really good job as a senior.
Coach, I want to mention the guy that I love a lot. I mean, I've seen him play for 4 years. He's been a starter since his freshman season. I know you're a big-time fan of him as his coach. DJ Newton, your nose guard, plays O-line, D-line, but he's a nose guard, legitimate, 5'10", 290, with feet, tough, all-out, full throttle. He's got the feet you look for, but he's not 6 foot, 6'2", like they like him. And like we both said, if he goes to a D2 school, D3, he'll light it up, and he could probably make somebody regret not taking him 1AA. What do you think of DJ?
Duranzik is one of the finest kids I've ever coached. And I know you're a historian of Louisiana high school football, but I coached Trayvon Lucky at Green Oaks.
Come on.
And he's been adopted as Trayvon's really my son. and he reminds me of Trayvon Lucky. And if Trayvon was 2 inches taller, he'd probably be in the NFL right now because Trayvon reminded me of Keontae Dawson that I played with in high school, in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
And so Duranzik benches 350, squats almost 600, played nose tackle, he played center, he played guard, he played tackle. He doesn't say much. He's not your rah-rah guy, but he never missed a day in the summer. He never missed a day of practice. He never complained, even when he was being triple teamed and quadruple teamed. They were running away from him, taking him out the game. He never complained. And I've been shopping him around, and I've been calling schools, and these schools that are telling me that he's 2 inches too tall, they're going to regret it because somebody is going to take him. Somebody's going to take him, and he's going to be blowing people away, and they're going to regret the fact that they ignored that DM or ignored that email over 2 inches because the kid has what it takes, and he does things the right way, man. And I know college coaches all over the country, all over the South, want kids in their program that are going to do it the right way, and they're not going to have to worry about a kid doing things the right way. And DJ Newton is that kid, and more importantly, he and his family are a pillar of that community. Okay, any weekend after a game, you call DJ or, I have a group text with the boys. They're always at DJ's house. They love DJ's parents. DJ's dad was one of my first backers when I took this job, and he was one that sold those boys on Coach Wilson. And he said, look, I like this guy. I like this kid. I think y'all are going to do well under him, and y'all need to buy into whatever he's selling. And a lot of them have because of Duranzik and because of, as they call him, Big Ray and his father. So, I love DJ Newton, and I love what he's been to my program, and I hate the fact that I'm only going to have him for 1 year because that's the type of kid that you really, really hang your hat on, man, and you depend on to be an extension of you.
That's what you want to build your program around is guys like that. And I want to mention, you mentioned a guy, Keontae Dawson. For people that are not from Shreveport, he played at Evangel Christian. It's Byron Dawson's brother. Keontae played for the Colts, was a heck of an NFL player for 7 years. Byron Dawson's now the D-line coach at Tulane. They didn't come any better than Keontae Dawson, right, Coach, at Evangel Christian?
No, not at all, man. And, if I had any regret as a child was not going to Evangel with Keontae. We played together at Turner Middle School right here on 70th Street in Shreveport. And, with that team had so many D1 athletes to only win one game in 2 years. It's amazing. It's amazing. Tommy Devereaux that played for Oklahoma State was on that team.
Wow.
Josh Porter that played basketball at LSUS was on that team. Man, we had so many athletes in this Pines Road, West Shreveport area. But Keontae was that guy that went and, I got his jersey, signed jersey in a shadow box hanging in my man cave right now, man, because I just love the fact that I can brag on kids, brag on people that I line down with that have done really, really good things and can be models for what I want my kids that I'm coaching right now to grow into being.
Coach, I want to mention some of the other players. We won't take as much time, but I just want to throw all their names out, guys that are coming back to play for you next year. Ardravius Washington Carper, who missed the season. He's going to be back, probably your quarterback or maybe receiver, free safety. Like you said, 2 positions for every kid. Tedrick Lampkin, a running back, linebacker. He'll be back. A leader, Trey Boyd, who started for you as a freshman. He's a great-looking corner and could play quarterback, could play receiver. Tyrese Kimball, going to be a great receiver corner, only an 8th grader, played for you this year. He's going to be special. Elijah Nwan James is only a sophomore tight end, safety, good-looking kid. Kendrick Blanks, a big 6'5" junior receiver, defensive end, might grow into a tight end for you. Reagan Foster, DeCavius Hogan, Jamariel Ray, Cole Modisette. I mean, there's a lot of kids coming back that are going to be Kornev, Hillman. I mean, there's a lot of guys to build around. Coach Desmond Jackson, a few kids to come back.
Yeah. We the nucleus is there. The nucleus is there. Brady, you didn't mention Braden Sterling. Braden Sterling was my quarterback going into the season. We got a good running back kid, Jaden Gay, that'll be coming in next year. That wasn't able to play due to academics, but he didn't miss a practice and he showed up to every game and he got those practice reps that you need. We actually call him red shirt.
That's funny.
We call him red shirt, man. But kids like Elijah Ward, kids like Kendrick Blank, 6'5", and he'll end up by the time he finishes senior year, man, he'll be a 6'6", 6'7" kid. And this summer was his first time in the weight room. And Trey Boyd is he's a specimen.
Yeah.
Trey's a specimen of a kid, and we're trying to get that fire behind his talent, man. He caught a ball at Magnolia. Actually, the game-winning touchdown. It was beautiful catch from Trey. And he didn't practice any offense that week, and he was like, Coach, let me get in. Let me do something for you. And he went in. He caught a big-time touchdown, that won that game for us. And he was a lockdown corner. You talk about kids like Tyrese Kimball that started 5 games this year as an 8th grader.
Yeah, he's good.
And if you didn't have a roster, you would think that kid was a 10th grader the way he played ball. And really Calvary was the only school that was able to pick on. And after Calvary burned him up a little bit, he really settled in and got that confidence. And that's really what we're trying to build, Lee. We're trying to build confidence with a lot of our youngsters because our leading tackler is gone, our leading rusher is gone, our leading quarterback is gone, our leading receiver is gone. We need those youngsters to come and step in and do the things that we know they can do. And like I said, I'm optimistic and I'm not nervous about the future of Plain Dealing at all, man, because we got really, really good kids. Really good kids.
Yeah. It makes me feel good, Coach, to bring you on today to promote your program. That makes me feel good because I know.
And I appreciate it.
When kids hear this gives them hope that their team's promoted. And they might say, we weren't promoted heavily maybe. But today we got to talk about the team, talk about the good things coming up, the things that were positive this year in 220. And 221's around the corner. So spring practice hopefully will go back to a normal world, right, Coach? And we'll get back and get everything back to normal, right? And we're going to have one more segment, and I want you to give me your 2 picks for the Super Bowl. I'm going to give you mine. We'll have a little fun, and then tell me who you think will win the national championship this year in college ball. Think of that, and I'll give you my pick for the national championship too, which is going to be hard to pick with all the stuff going on. It's right. Crazy, man, crazy. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break with more of Coach Christopher Wilson from Plain Dealing High School. We'll be right back.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brakeen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brakeen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com and get connected today.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I hope you're enjoying the show. We've got head coach Christopher Wilson from Plain Dealing High School around Bossier City. But Plain Dealing's its own town. I mean, it's kind of like Minden's Minden. Houghton is Houghton. All those small towns around Shreveport and Bossier City. Unique, great people. Great people. I've been to all these schools, Coach. I've got I counted the other day. I probably had 300,000 miles on 3 vehicles combined going to Shreveport and Bossier and Natchitoches and Monroe, West Monroe and Alexandria and Pineville, places like Campty and, LaSalle, everywhere. So enjoyed meeting all these people. You know what I love? I don't know if you do. I love the small restaurants in these small towns.
Love them.
There's nothing like local cooked food, Coach. You agree?
Love them. And like I said, whenever you make it back to Plain Dealing, you got to go by Big Dukes. Big Dukes are their family's transplant from Rain.
Wow.
down in South Louisiana, man. And when I tell you, he does a jambalaya and a crawfish etouffee that takes me back to Southern University.
Man, wait a minute, I'm writing this down, man. Big Dukes, you said?
Big Dukes. Once you get into town, it's right across the street from the Dollar General. It's only one intersection in Plain Dealing.
Right.
And so once you make that right to come towards the school, Big Dukes is to the right before you cross the train tracks, man. And I'm telling you, some good. I'm a Southern University graduate, and it takes me back to 225 and the 337. And when Tracy does that etouffee on Friday. I'm taking a break from school, and I'm going to give me an etouffee plate to start my game day the right way.
And you excited?
Oh, yeah.
College. We'll do the college first, Coach. We'll talk about our Super Bowl picks in a minute. But college football,
okay.
Coach, people can say playoffs and this and that, but it gets crazy every week. Ohio State might win the Big Ten, but they may not play enough games to be in the playoffs. They have a minimum that they have to play to get in the playoffs. So you might not see anybody in the Big Ten even get in the playoffs. I think the rule's crazy, but I think they should just pick on it like they do anyway. But right now, Alabama looks like they're a lock unless something happens in Atlanta, which Florida Gators could beat them. I don't think this is the greatest Alabama team ever, Coach. I think it's a great Saban team, but I don't think it's the great teams that he's had. I think he's doing the best coaching job he's ever done, not losing one opt-out for the whole season. But I think Florida looks like they're destined to go to the playoffs. I think Florida will be in there. I think Alabama will be in there, even if they lose to Florida. And then it's the other 2 spots. Who's going to get the other 2 spots? Would it be Clemson? Well, can they win their ACC game? They lost to Notre Dame. So Notre Dame's really the 3rd spot right now. The 4th spot is wide open between Brigham Young, Cincinnati, and everybody else. I'm picking Notre Dame to win it all, Coach.
Yeah. I was looking at it. Now, Notre Dame's really been strong. It's hard to count out a Nick Saban coach Alabama team.
Yeah.
I don't know if his COVID diagnosis is going to play any really big thing of making it difficult for them. But I'm definitely looking at an Alabama Notre Dame national championship. I just don't think they'll let BYU in with their body of work, North Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'll pull for the underdogs. I don't know about you, but I just like the teams that nobody wants to put in there, and I like that Brigham Young, nobody's saying they can go, and, things have to play out. But if Clemson loses again, they're probably out, which they might lose again. Alabama, they lose to Florida. As you know, they're still going to get in with 1 loss. They always get in if you rank 1 or 2 right now this time of year. And then Cincinnati, that's probably the coaching hub of college football, right, Coach? Their last 3 coaches have become D1 big-time Power 5 coaches. And the coach at Notre Dame, Kelly, he was at Cincinnati at one time. Coach Kelly was. Here's the big one. The NFL, you got a lot of good teams right now. I'm a Steelers fan. They're 10-0. The Saints are 9-2. Seattle's 8-3. The Packers are 8-3. There's one division, I don't even know if they should be considered. The Giants, the Washington and Eagles and Cowboys. I don't think those guys should make the playoffs. No one.
Man, we just cancel those guys out.
Cancel them out. The Bills, 8-3. Look, Tre'Davious White, speaking of Green Oaks. The Dolphins.
Now,
Dolphins 7-4. The Titans are doing well. And then you got the Chiefs at 10-1. And then you got the Browns, man. Coach, the Browns are 8-3 for the first time in 25 years. So I'm going to go with, and I'm not going with my heart, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh beating Kansas City in the AFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl. I'm going to go defense over Mahomes, right? They always say go defense. I'm going to go the Saints are going to beat Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl. Because I'm going defense again. The Saints got the best defense they've ever had. They got the best D-line they've ever had in the history of the team. The Saints won a game 31-3 with no Breeze. Now, I know the Broncos didn't have a quarterback, right? They had, a DB playing quarterback, but
a practice squad DB.
Yeah, but they won it mile high in a high altitude with they still won 31-3 with a defense. The defense they're bad to the bone, Coach. What do you got? What do you think will happen? I tell you what, I didn't give my winner, I just gave the championship games to get to the Super Bowl. So I'm a Steelers fan, and they're going against my hometown Saints. I'm picking Pittsburgh.
Okay.
The Steelers.
I'm gonna go.
Saints.
I'm gonna go head and heart in the AFC. I'm gonna go Kansas City over Buffalo because of Tre'Davious White. I cut my teeth coaching with him, and I'll never, as long as he's playing wherever he is, I'm with them. And in the NFC, I'm going Seattle and New Orleans in the NFC Championship, and I'm going to go Seattle.
Russell Wilson, huh? Russell Wilson time?
I'm going Russell Wilson just because we just don't know about Breeze. He broke his ribs up against the Niners, and he didn't even get fell on. I just don't know how well he's going to be able to hold up for that playoff push. And then Kansas City again for the Super Bowl.
Come on, you got Mahomes, huh?
I think they're too explosive. They're too explosive, and they're playing really, really good defense, and they're just able to score the ball, man, with all of those weapons, and it's really, really impressive. And I hate going against Tomlin because I love what he's doing in Pittsburgh, because he just doesn't have the same type of weapons that Kansas City has, and he always finds a way to win, and that's really, really impressive. But I think, and I've always been an Andy Reid fan, fat offensive genius, and I'd like to be looked at as a fat offensive genius one day.
You know what I like, Coach? You know what I like? Tell me if you agree with this. And my listeners might agree, but, I've been watching the Steelers for 40 years. And they've never had a good-looking offense. It's always been pound, 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 grind, clock. They remind me of a wing T high school team that just controls the clock, and then they don't give you many opportunities to score. That's my reason I'm thinking that they can beat Kansas City, because Kansas City really can't be stopped, like you said. You can't stop them. The only thing you can hope for is Mahomes don't get enough opportunities. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't even have a great running game, but they're 10-0 without a running game. Is that crazy?
It's a beautiful thing, man. Being a Bird kid, being a Bird
right.
kid and being in the wing tee. I know my kids hate it. It's so beautiful when it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, and I incorporated a little wing tee once we went down with the running back, and once we went down with our quarterback, we did a little wing tee out of the spread, and I was so satisfied. Just if you go back and watch the Lincoln Prep game, that was something that we put in early that week. And I was, that was probably more satisfied after that week than I had been any other week. Because it really just took me back to my roots.
Yeah.
Being a wing T kid and making it so simple but so difficult to defend. And you're right about Pittsburgh. It's never been pretty. Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls, but he never had it wasn't pretty.
No. Franco Harris wasn't a pretty running back running it.
No, Franco Harris wasn't pretty, and but you were able to put it up to Swan and Stallworth. look, I'm flashing my knowledge, but I've been a football geek my entire life.
There you go.
Jerome
Bettis, they had Jerome Bettis in that offense too.
Definitely. For 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And if you can do it right, man, it's effective.
Pittsburgh, they don't run a wing T, if the listeners are hearing. They remind me because they got big tight ends. They got big receivers. Juju Schuster-Smith's like a tight end, 6'3", 230. And they got the rookie Claypool from Notre Dame that's 6'5", 240. They're not those slot receiver guys like they did in the past, and they just grind. And in Rosenberger, he looks like an offensive tackle, but he's got a great arm, and he's hard to sack. And, Coach, speaking of Buffalo, they could be the spoiler, right? I mean, they've got a team that could spoil everything in the AFC. Buffalo seems like they're destined to get there soon.
Definitely. And, and like I said, man, with any team that Tre'Davious White's on, I know it's going to be successful because he was that kid in high school. And when everybody kind of overlooked us at Green Oaks those years, he was the kid that didn't let people forget about what Green Oaks was doing. And then when he went to LSU and he turned into a leader as a sophomore and going into Buffalo and doing the things he's doing in Buffalo on the defensive side, and you add in Josh Allen and then stealing Stephon Diggs from Minnesota, he added that element in the offense that you really couldn't recreate.
Hey, Coach, and, I got a story for you for Tre'Davious White at Green Oaks.
Okay.
So during that era, I was doing video work for colleges out of Baton Rouge for the whole country. I had 100 colleges. This is before Huddle. This is before video was online.
Okay.
And Green Oaks at that time, they weren't filming their own games, and a lot of teams weren't. A lot of public schools, some private schools. So I had video guys everywhere filming. I'd pay them. The colleges, Saban paid me. I had Nussmeier working at Michigan State, who's now with the Cowboys. Everywhere, colleges working for him. I'd break tape down a year in advance and say, recruit these guys. Don't worry about rankings. Recruit these guys. These are the players. So when I put Green Oaks on, his sophomore year, Tre'Davious White at Green Oaks, I watched.
What game was it?
I want to say it was a rival game at that time against not Booker T. Washington, but Fair Park at the time.
Oh, yes, indeed.
And Fair Park at the time was super talented, as 10, 15 years ago. They had a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And they still got talent, but, they had a lot of talent at Fair Park. And Coach Green did a good job there. And, Coach, in that one game, it wasn't just stats. It was like watching the movie The Longest Yard with 6 touchdowns by Tre'Davious. Tre'Davious had 2 pick sixes where he had to miss 8 people doing it. He had 2 long touchdowns in the slot that were amazing. He even scored at Wildcat quarterback a 99-yard run. And when I finished watching the game, he was a sophomore, and he was only about 5'8" at the time, 160. But, they're soaking wet. And people have to, this is where you got to like recruiting and know to see something in a kid. You could tell at that time he was different. He had it. Like, he was special. Don't look at height. Don't look at weight. And he's only a sophomore. He's going to gain a little weight, going to get a little taller. And he only got to 5'10". It's probably his true height. Probably now about 190 after college. He was probably 175 in college or 170 most of the college at LSU.
He might be pushing 200. I saw him before he left to go to training camp. Kid was huge. He was huge.
But he was the Tyrann Mathieu of North Louisiana. And I saw Tyrann play as a sophomore. So I'm the one that filmed him and got it to all the colleges at that time. And no one promoted that. And I was like the guy that, behind the scenes that had a video company. I did that for 10 years. And
yeah, it was important. And it really put Green Oaks on the map those 4 years. Because, when I got there in the fall of 2009, Tony Davenport was the big time running back.
Yeah, that's right.
And so Tony was the big time running back, and then Baby Shaq. They talked about Baby Shaq. And Baby Shaq came in, and really my first day of practice was his first day of practice. And when school started that year, he was in my first period, and I asked him. I said, "Well, hey man, everybody talks so much about you. What do you want to do?" He said, "I want to go play football at LSU. My god brother's Morris Claiborne. I want to be better than Morris."
Yeah.
And to be able to have a first first-class view of watching that kid for 4 years do everything that he did, because that year, that sophomore year against Fair Park, Chris Williams was statistically, yard-wise, one of the best quarterbacks in the state.
Well, at the time, Lent Bursey was the coach.
At Fair Park,
at
yeah.
Fair Park. And Lent Bursey, I was at Fair Park. I'll never forget this. Mo Claiborne, as they call him, Mo, as you know, Morris Mo. He was a sophomore going in his junior year, and I'm at the school. And this is 9 in the morning, and I remember Coach Bursey telling me, Lee, Texas A&M wants him to visit next week. Nebraska, Georgia. I was working for all of those guys doing video, and LSU. And we sent the video to LSU a year before that, because I watched Mo, as you remember, play quarterback for them too.
Yep.
And he was a DB, receiver. He did it all, kind of like your guys, played 2-3 positions. And I remember him saying, can you talk to Les Miles and see if they can call us? We're ready to commit. And I'm like, Coach, I don't work like for him full time. You know, I'm a middle guy with the videos, and I sell videos to him. And he's like, look, tell them at LSU that he's ready to commit, because A&M's in here, and Buddy Wyatt was working for them. I was working with Buddy. He was the D-line coach at A&M at the time. And you just don't forget stuff like that. And Morris was like, I'm ready to end it. And this is a year before his senior year.
Right.
And then he committed to LSU. But, you know, they were stocked with talent at Fair Park. Lent was a good guy, too. Ended up coaching at Rayville, as you know, Rayville High School.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach, I appreciate you being on the show, man. I had a good time. I'm glad we were able to promote your school today, Plain Dealing.
I appreciate you, man. Anytime we can talk about the Plain Dealing Lines, it's a good time for me, man. So I appreciate you thinking about me, you know, and I appreciate you thinking about my boys in our little community, our little town up in North Bossier, man, 7 minutes from the Arkansas line. And, you know, like I said, man, we encourage people to keep their eyes on Plain Dealing, man, because I think it's going to get really good for us really soon.
Coach, thank you, man. Don't hang up. We're about to end the show, but don't hang up. I'll talk to you before you hang up. I want everybody to go to the website, lafootballmagazine.com, where Plain Dealing's in the preview issue. We sent Coach a copy, and it's a hardback copy. You can get a digital copy for North and South Louisiana. We're going to be working on the next one for 25 years coming up. I can't believe it, already for 2021 pretty soon. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll see you on Thursday of this week. We'll have a show Thursday, and we'll also have one Friday. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Burkeen.